So talk to us about where things stand right now when it comes to this immigration ordinance and this fight with the state.
Well, while we're making so much progress improving our streets and drainage and public safety, about 2 weeks ago, 3 council members decided they wanted to make a statement regarding ICE and immigration. We've got such a record of keeping that very low key, unlike the other major cities. We've had no turmoil. So they proposed a proposition that really just stopped our folks, our police, from doing their job. They're required by law, a state law, to look for warrants from any jurisdiction. Same thing other police departments do. But they didn't want them to see if there was an ICE warrant, which there's very few, quite frankly. So that had some very strong language that would have prevented HPD from following state law. So I asked them to revise it, and they made it better. We passed it. The governor objects. The governor furnishes us $114 million just for public safety. We must have that money for Houston to be the safe city that we all are moving towards. Domestic abuse funding, human trafficking funding, homicide investigations. I could go on and on where the $114 million is needed. We don't have any monies to replace the state grant money. And when we got the state grant money, we signed an agreement that we would follow the state laws. The governor has a strong opinion that we violated that agreement. Some council members, the same 3 that proposed it, want to go to court and fight it out. The problem is we're not going to win in court because the state Supreme Court supports the governor. And number 2, every minute, we've already lost the funding. We've got to get that funding back. So I'm pushing for an agreement with the state that would protect our residents, protect our police, and also protect our finances. Because I'm smart enough to know this is just the first step by the governor. He will then be looking at our transportation dollars and our health care funding. So he means business, council members and others. Now we've got others being the U.S. Senator. Our Attorney General Paxton suing the state. Our U.S. Senator, his opponent in the primary, is now introducing legislation. So I've witnessed this become nothing but politics. My responsibility is to keep the city safe and protect our finances. And that's where we are today, and I'm glad to talk to you about it.
You mentioned the governor believes that this violated state law. Do you believe that?
It really doesn't matter what I think. I think we had a workable proposition, or I wouldn't have voted for it. It was so much better than the first. They revised it, and I supported it. I would not have voted for it if I thought it violated the state law. We have a signed letter to follow the state law. I interpreted that it was a reasonable compromise. The governor disagrees. Now the council members, 3 of them, are playing politics. The state's playing politics. And I'm trying to continue to protect our residents and our finances. We haven't had any turmoil. And the truth is we've had very little presence of ICE in Houston. So I'm going to continue to have everyone keep talking. We'll meet next Wednesday in council and propose language that I believe brings all the parties together.
So obviously you supported this ordinance and voted for it.
After
the revisions,
revised,
right,
yeah.
right. Critics have accused you of, after doing that, now just following what the governor wants. What do you say to that?
I say that's total politics. They know it. I was in the legislature 50 years. I probably have voted against Greg Abbott's proposals more than any living human. I was a state senator. I was chair of criminal justice. He and I disagreed often. Quite frankly, I wish he would have not intervened at this point. But it's his grant money. The legislature, and there's senators involved, local Houston senators backing him up. The chairman of finance from Houston, Joan Huffman, supports the governor. She budgeted grant money to help the cities with public safety. She's on the governor's side. And what my colleagues don't really understand, we'll have another legislative session next January. We're actually getting ready for the next legislative session. We need the support of the state of Texas and its large funding for public health, public safety, highways. So we can't manage the city without state and federal assistance. So anybody that says, I yield to Abbott, this is not about Abbott. It's not about me. It's about what's in Houston's best interest. And these council members, they don't have to live with the outcome. I'm responsible for the city of Houston's finances. Orko, we ought to be working on other matters. We ought to be working on our budget. We're about to lay out a budget that will balance city's finances and the budget without raising taxes. So, council members, I respect your opportunity. I don't appreciate the politics because this is too important to politicize. I criticize our state officials for making, hey, the Attorney General's in a huge campaign for the U.S. Senate. He sued us, not in Houston. He went to Fort Bend to sue us. He's kind of forum shopping to see where he can get the most publicity. So I know these folks. I've worked with them in Austin. Experience matters on my part. And I just hope the council will come together next Wednesday and do what's best for Houston.
Speaking of the council, we've spoken to several of them who say they're not changing their stance if they supported this ordinance. Have you talked to them to try to sway them, or where does that stand?
That's the reason we postponed today's vote. I've met with most of the council members. I will meet with all of them. They haven't even seen those critics, getting back to their politics, they haven't even seen the new language. So I would ask everyone, lower your voices, do what's best for Houston, and leave politics out in the hall.
That new language, can you elaborate on what that says?
The language is bringing the two parties together, and it's going to protect our residents and protect the city's finances. That's my goal.
So, this 30-minute wait rule that was taken, is this back in the language, or can you
We're going to
specify?
remove the 30 minutes and replace it with a reasonable amount of time, which, the 30 minutes was always the maximum. No one planned to use all the 30 minutes because, first of all, if the council would do their homework, not many ICE officers were ever showing up. And we actually had a really, really good model of saying, we'll be reasonable, we'll take our officer off street for 30 minutes. Takes that long to do the verification of the warrant and the nature of the warrant. But now, if they don't like the 30 minutes, we'll go to a reasonable amount of time. You stop someone for a violation, the law requires you to look for warrants, whether it might be Montgomery County or Fort Bend. If an ICE warrant shows up, by law you contact ICE and they start telling you whether they're going to appear to get someone that might be charged for murder in Honduras or Guatemala. You've got to find out, for the safety of the police officer and our community, who is this person? And oftentimes, they don't even have an ID. So you have to deal, and that's the reason a supervisor shows up at the scene. That's a big change that the revised ordinance proposed, and I supported it. Have a supervisor there. And we will share all the data that the council members are looking for. All they got to do is pick up the phone and talk to the chief. So, as I said, this looks like a big political campaign that I'm not a part of.
I know yesterday you said in your statement that you were having constructive conversations with the governor's office. What have those conversations looked like?
Well, obviously, it's an effort to see what the governor's major concerns are, and then demonstrate to him that we're coming together to protect our citizens, our residents, and the city finances. We've emphasized, and he's knowledgeable, that we can't run this city without $114 million of public safety monies. It's going to, if we lose it, which we've already lost it, he cut it off last Wednesday. preparation for FIFA, overtime patrol, and you know, we have these pop-up protests. We have to have overtime for police officers to go to Post Oak and Westheimer when you've got several thousand people taking over the street to protest. You get overtime officers there. But we're on the right track in this city. Public safety, I wish I had time and we'll do another interview, just tell you all the improvement we're making on public safety. Part of it's funded from the state of Texas.
Next Wednesday's meeting, can you just briefly run through what's expected to happen during that meeting? What's the...
You know, we're still talking to council members to get their counsel, what language they want, what steps to take, but I hopefully will resolve this next Wednesday.
If next Wednesday rolls around and council members don't budge, there's not a majority that vote to repeal this ordinance or change it based on this new language, what happens then?
Well, first of all, it's my job to see that that doesn't happen. I'm encouraged because the council members, many of them, I believe a majority of them, know how critical this is. There's a majority not playing politics. They're just voting on the language that's presented. They're not having the press conferences and urging us to do to court. Going to court, that would bog us down, waste very expensive legal costs. And number two, at the end of the day, the state Supreme Court backs the governor. So that's more of a delay tactic.
You know, I spoke to the governor yesterday. He said that this public safety funding is not contingent on, you know, funding the police. He said there's another state law that requires the city to find other funds to fund the police.
He said we could find more funds?
He said that this city has to find a way to fund the police outside of this public safety funding.
He's familiar that the city is broke. From years of kicking the can down the road, the city, you know, I could go through what other mayors have done to balance the budget, you know, lay people off, use ARPA, federal funding, and sell properties. We're not playing games with city finances. We're going to fix it. We'll do it 1st of June, balance the budget. We will not raise taxes. And we're really looking out for Houston's future. We're going to use some consolidation of departments, efficiencies, and we'll have a financial forecast that'll look good.
The World Cup is coming up.
Yeah.
What in this 110 roughly $1 million in public safety funding is directly related to security safety measures during the World Cup? And without it, what would we see?
We would have a shortage of public safety coverage and involvement. We've got to have police overtime to cover the large group of visitors and activities. For instance, also the fire department. We leased 50 ambulances, additional. So we're fixing to have large number of people here. We have to provide for Houstonians first, and then we're going to lease 50 ambulances to make certain that during FIFA and the World Cups that we have all the resources necessary. This $114 million is directed at a lot of those services. Overtime.
You touched on this already a little bit, the new lawsuit filed by Attorney General Ken Paxton. What's your response to seeing that?
We've got a city attorney that will address that, but there again, I think if we resolve it next Wednesday, that lawsuit will become moot. So we don't need to go to court. The clock is running on the loss of the funding. We need to come together as a council, protect our residents and protect the city's finances. And we don't have a surplus of money to reach out and replace the 114. But I can't emphasize enough, the governor means business. He controls the purse strings. So if we didn't resolve this, then he's gonna defund our road projects and our public health. He has a right to demand that we follow his interpretation of the agreement. Not to mention he's got the backing of the legislature. You know, we don't live on an island down here. We depend on Austin and the federal government for funding. And it's my job to look out for the city's finances.
I want to go back to this revised language of the ordinance that you're talking about. Who is it? Your staff that has come up with this new language that you'll be
It's
showing to
talking
council members?
It's talking to council members. The legal department makes certain that it complies with city laws. We're drafting changes to the ordinance, which will get us much closer and convince the state of Texas that we intend to follow state law.
Has the state had any input on this new ordinance?
Yes, of course they have. We're in negotiations. We're talking to them. We're talking to the governor's office.
And without getting into too many specifics, I'm sure
No, it's
there's
still
a lot.
evolving. It's still evolving.
But how different is it from the ordinance that was passed last week?
It's a compromise. It's a close match. Close match.
But in your opinion, it gets away from this
I think it follows
issue.
the state law and also protects our residents and the city finances. So,
And then
and it's a product of talking to council members. That's all we did all day yesterday. We'll continue today, over the weekend. We'll roll it out the first of next week.
and the big hope Wednesday is that this new version.
We have no, we must return the funding for public safety, police overtime, fire, our emergency center. And think about this, you want to plug this into the discussion? We're entering hurricane season. I can't have public safety and emergency and homeland security having a shortage of funding because politics is being played between some council members and the state capitol. It's just not healthy for Houston. And we've done such a great job of keeping turmoil out of our community.